Hey,
Hey,
what is
hey.
up, girl? How you doing?
I'm doing good, G. How are you?
Yeah, it's your boy, Coach G, everybody. And this is
Misfits managed.
yes, with Lauren as the co-host. But yeah, it, it's Misfits Managed, man. We are excited to be here today and actually had a good day today. Super busy, but I had a good day today. How was your day?
I did good. I'm excited because I had, I could breathe. So
Okay.
there's that.
Yep.
And
Oxygen's a good thing. Breathing's a good
yeah,
thing.
turns out it's necessary to live. Um, I am, I didn't tell you this yet. I am doing a workshop at a conference in Florida in November. So I
Nice.
was doing my presentation for that today, and
Nice.
it
That's
has been so
nice.
much fun. Yay!
Proud of you, girl, for stepping out there.
Yeah.
Yep, it's all about some paid events. That's what's up.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah,
But we gonna jump in because I'm excited about tonight.
I'm so excited tonight. Um, so Misfits Managed Nation, man, do we have a treat for you today? Brian Andrews, and he's not special just because he's my cousin and part of the trio of three amigos. Um, I won't touch on that, but anyway, Brian Andrews is my cousin. He is an author, drummer, producer, composer. So, Brian Andrews, an author, Billboard charting drummer, producer, and composer, is making waves in the music industry from his base in Atlanta, Georgia. Hailing from St. Louis, the Lou, that's where we do our stuff. Brian's love for music was instilled by his mother, who served as a choir director. That's Aunt Peaches for y'all that don't know. His legendary career has taken him around the globe, performing alongside renowned artists such as Adam Haley, Mandisa, Kim Waters, and P.G. Morton. Notably, he has graced the stage of shows like Good Morning America. As a solo artist, his latest single, Atmosphere, powerhouse single, had an impressive 20-week run. Let me say that again, 20-week run on the Smooth Jazz Top 100 chart. Beyond his musical endeavors, Brian is the driving force behind Brian Entertainment LLC, offering a range of production, studio, and live band services. Expanding his horizons, I'm so excited about this and proud of him. He is venturing into the realm of writing. Yes.
Woo!
Yeah, with his debut devotional book, The Journey of Faith, inspiring to share reflective insights and inspire readers to deepen their spiritual connection with God. Um, None other we're bringing in today, Brian Andrews. Welcome him, Misfits Managed Nation.
Yay, Brian!
What was that dance?
Hey, 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 get that boogie on, boy. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. How are you all?
Doing great.
Yeah, outstanding. We are blessed and honored that you are here. I couldn't wait for this date to get here. I'm so
Oh
excited for
yeah.
you.
Brian, I gotta tell you, Gary called me last week, and he doesn't usually call me in the middle of the day. And I looked at my watch. I'm like, oh, I gotta pick up the phone. What's going on? And he's like, he can be on. He's like, book him, Dano.
Yeah, so this is
Well, thank
Brian
you all.
Andrews, everybody, and I just gave you his introduction on his bio, but I know him as Atlanta Big Face. So
I already knew this wasn't going to be good because it's family, and it's just and Lauren, you're like family, so it's just like this is yeah. I'm in trouble.
so Lauren, a couple shows ago, when I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, when Brian jumped on 2 weeks ago, he jumped on. You remember we talked about the family roasting sometimes when we get together and we roast each other. So he know to come with the tough skin. I know to
Yeah.
bring the tough skin because
Oh yeah.
that's just how we roll.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
was
in
thinking
love.
about you two last night because I was watching a roast and I was just like, oh, I gotta do this.
Well, you said you wanted to be a part of it, so here we are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
So B
God.
man, this is to highlight you. We are blessed and honored that you are here, but we want to take today's show, Misfits Managed, this episode to celebrate you. So this episode is Brian Andrews.
Oh wow.
So it's all about you, man.
Okay.
So just share, initially just start us off. Share from your heart what's on your heart, and maybe past, present, and we'll talk about some future stuff too. But let's jump into your past to start with.
Well, right now, what's on my heart is some cool weather
Oh,
Uh huh.
because it's hot as Hades in
you
Atlanta.
hot Atlanta, hot Atlanta.
But yeah, man. Well, as you read, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. Um, the ATL is certainly home. I've been here since '91. Um, I came to Atlanta not on my own will, I guess you could say.
Okay,
My dad felt like the direction that I was going in life was not a positive one. And so he was like, hey, we got to get you out of here. We don't know where you're going. And I think the two choices narrowed down to Kansas City.
ah, I would have loved that, brother.
But he was like, Kansas City and St. Louis ain't a huge difference at that
Right,
time in
right.
terms, and
And
so he was like,
it's toxic up here with family. So yeah, I'm gonna say it.
see,
This
I was
show,
trying to
brother.
be politically correct.
No, no, this is Misfits Managed, man. You just bring it. We just bring it. I mean,
But you're right.
unapologetically.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that was one of his concerns. And so he chose Atlanta, where we had a friend of the family uh, that had been living here for years. And it's funny, man, because every time I think about it, I first visited Atlanta with a friend of mine, Kevin, to help him move from St. Louis to Atlanta
Okay.
with no idea of that I would be moving or leaving St. Louis. And so I helped him to move and got him settled. And while we were here, we visit a church that was having like this big musical, and I was blown away because the musicianship was just another level, and just
Right, right.
and I never forget, it was a drummer that was playing that night. He was phenomenal, and I was like, oh my God. And we ended up crossing paths in the bathroom. And
Okay.
so I told him, I said, hey man, I'm a drummer as well,
Miracle
visiting from
meetings.
St. Louis, and I was like, man, I enjoyed you tremendously. Once again, not knowing that I would end up living in Atlanta. And so probably about 6 months, maybe no more than a year later, I found myself moving to Atlanta. And I went right back to that church and went to other churches. I was trying to find this guy because I remembered him. I
Right.
didn't run into him until like years later, but by the time I ran into him, he was playing organ and keys, and he was just as good as on those instruments as he was on drums. And so, um, moved, got settled, got introduced to the music scene that I didn't know
Well,
existed. In
I'm a
terms, go
can I
ahead.
pause you there?
Absolutely.
I gotta say, I was so proud of you when I heard the news that you had moved. And it looks like actually before I even
Chris.
say, yeah, Chris is on here. Another Atlanta alum. So that's powerful. Good to see you, Chris.
Hi,
But
Chris.
what I was saying, when I heard the news that you had left St. Louis and moved to Atlanta, and just the thought of Brian Andrews, because you're a staple in St. Louis in the Lou, and the fact that you had moved, I was like, oh my God, man, I was so proud of you,
Yeah,
so proud of you. That's such a big step,
it was a
and
frightening step.
I know, I
It was
know,
a
I know
frightening
all
step.
that came with it, but I gotta say live how proud I am of you. And still, I mean, you've done nothing but greatness since you've been there. So continue your story. I just felt I needed to tell you that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I tell people all the time, I'm quite certain if I had stayed in St. Louis, I would not have achieved any of the things that I've been blessed to achieve, and the people that I've met, any of that. So I'm grateful for my father
Hmm.
I didn't understand it at the time, and it was so bad, man. When I left, I was driving home every weekend, like
And
for about
that's like
like
10 hours, 12
about.
hours.
It took me about, well, I was younger then, so it was, what's the speed limit when you're in your
Right.
20s?
Right.
Westwood over here,
What's the speed limit?
Jet.
Yeah, so,
non-existent.
right. And
There is no
some week
speed limit.
some
Yeah.
weekends I'll be like, well, I made it in 9 hours. Let me see if I can do it in 8.5.
Oh,
So I was
Jesus.
competing.
Challenge accepted.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Like you in some video game.
Right. And so I was in school for computer operations. At the time, the school was Control Data Institute. And so every Friday, soon as school was out, I'm on the highway back to St. Louis.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I think after about a month or so, my dad was like, "Why are you here?
Pump the brakes. Yep.
Why you keep coming back?" He's like, "If you keep coming here, you'll never learn the city. You'll never meet people. You'll never, And so that resonated with me, and so I had to get over that fear, and I just started staying and started finding my way around, and because I didn't know anybody,
Right.
and
Right.
so start finding my way around.
But you're a magnet, so I know it didn't take long for people to know you. So,
You think I'm a magnet? Okay, I don't know,
dude, are
maybe.
you serious? Did you
Look at
just
all
say
the
that?
things you've got going. You're magnet.
Did you just say that out loud, out of your mouth?
Lord, I
Uh,
need you to be on my side tonight.
Chris probably gonna comment on that. So I ain't the only one. Family gonna start popping in here tonight. So Chris probably about to comment on that too. So just
Brian, I got a question really quick.
Yes.
Okay, so you said you were like, well, I'm going to say terrified. You said you were scared to not go back home. How did you get past that?
good question, Lauren.
I just had to force myself to stay here, and once I stayed here, there was a particular church at the time, Powerhouse of Deliverance. If you're familiar with any gospel artists, it's the Pace sisters, Murphy
Okay.
Pace, that
Mm-hmm.
family's church. And so I started becoming engaged in the church. And at that time, that church was very popular.
Okay.
So any and everybody was coming through there at any given time, well-known artists, well-known preachers. And even people in the city would come there frequently. And so I just started fostering relationships. And the more involved I got into the music scene and meeting people, um, I started looking back like, what is St. Louis? What? Where is that?
Wow.
Expanded that
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I've always done music. Like Gary read in my bio, I played in church as a kid. My mom was the choir director, and those days were memorable. I mean, it was just, I think that the most that I think what I didn't like the most about it was my dad used to make me play in a suit.
Oh.
Other than that, it
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and so
Man, I
that's
remember
all
y'all
I
traveled
knew.
everywhere in the suit.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And so and so that's all I knew in terms of music. But when I got to Atlanta, I discovered people are making a living doing music.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, Gary, how this, I was, we couldn't listen to secular music,
Right. Right.
and
Lauren probably has no grid for that life.
yeah.
She don't know, man.
Gee, I don't want to hear your crap tonight. Also, hi, Tiffany.
Oh, Tiffany has graced it. That's his sister.
That's my sister. Hey, big sis. And so,
Hi,
yeah, it was
Shannon. Sorry.
so, um, the only way that I did listen to the little bit of secular music that I listened to, I used to, the old school alarm clocks that had the radio,
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right. Right.
all in one. And
Yep.
so I would sleep with that under my pillow and have the Quiet Storm at night just
Oh,
playing real low.
right. That was me, man. That was me.
So that's the only way. Other than that, that's the only way I listen to it. And because back in that, I'm kind of aging myself now, but my dad had a Cadillac, but it had an 8-track. Well, I wouldn't buy no 8-track secular music, so it was like I had no way like these kids today, they got cell phones, they have, all types of devices where they can listen to whatever. We wasn't privy of that back then. And so and it was challenging because when I finally moved, fast forwarding, when I finally got settled in Atlanta and I started meeting people, I started doing gigs in some of the
Right, right.
sports bars and some of the venues around the city. And it was rough because I didn't know some of the standard songs that everybody else knew. You're talking about being a misfit. But I was just out of place, just like, and I'm trying to force myself into something, and I wasn't even prepared for it. So they'll call out an Earth, Wind, and Fire song, and I'd be like, I don't know that. And they'd be like, man, why are you on these drums? You don't know Earth, Wind, and Fire? You don't know. And they start calling out Michael Jackson stuff and the Jackson 5. I'm like, I don't know that stuff. So, woo, those earlier years was rough. And I had to quickly learn and listen and digest that type of music.
So what did you play when they requested that?
Sometimes I didn't play because I didn't
Wow.
know it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So what helped you get over the hump? Because I know, number one, you're a very confident man, and that had to hit your ego and hit your pride. But what was it that kept you pushing forward?
Um,
Because misfits go through things like this all the time, and
yeah.
sometimes they quit. So you got the secret sauce because you have made it successfully. So what was it that kept you going in those darkest times?
Well, quitting wasn't an option. I had just made my mind up that, okay, I'm here. It was like, I think you said that the last time I was on, there was no plan B.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
I'm here. I knew I wasn't going back to St. Louis, and God knows I wasn't thinking about going anywhere else. So I had to figure it out, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just started going to different jam sessions and just start going to anything that was music related, church, non-church, whatever, just concerts, just like a sponge, and just absorbing all
Yeah.
types of music. And then on my downtime, I'm listening to the radio and listening to the top 40 and just listening to, and that helped me tremendously because what I discovered was there's a set of songs that everybody did, no matter what venue it was.
So a
So I was
standard, yeah.
standard, yeah. So I was like, if I could just at least learn the standards, and as God began to favor me, I had I would always be connected with a group of guys. They would show grace and mercy, and they'd be like, "Well, no, this is the beat. I might not know it, and they'll just give me the beat right quick, give me the rhythm,
Yeah.
and they would talk me through it, and I would just embrace it and be like,
How
"Hey,
cool.
let's go."
So that reminds me, you are such a gifted artist. You are ear. Have you
Train,
or
yes,
have you had private
no,
lessons or educational? I've
no,
always
my
thought you were an ear artist.
absolutely. When it came to drums, my educational training was on saxophone and piano, but I've always been gifted to just play drums
Yeah.
since 3, 4 years old.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back into the history books here. Do you remember in St. Louis when we would come to your house and we would have church? Because that's where you started playing drums. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got plenty of whoopings because I was pulling up my mom pots and pans,
Right, right,
and then I would have shoe boxes, and the shoe boxes would be
right.
set up like a drum set.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and the clothes hangers you get from
Oh
the
yeah.
cleaners with
Hmm.
the white. Those would be my drumsticks, and I would have a whole bunch of those because by the time I'm playing through the service, I didn't broke 1 or 2 of them.
Boy,
It
those
was
are some good
serious.
memories. Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was
serious.
serious.
We thought we were actually really having church. Boy, that was
Oh
awesome.
my God, we was all preaching
And
and somebody was taking an offering. Tiffany was
Tiffany
singing,
cracking up
and
on here. You see that? You see your sister laughing at you?
Hey, God touched all of you early. That's what I'm hearing.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Christopher says, laugh out loud. Home church
Home church
sessions was
session.
lit.
That's right. That's
It
right.
was. It
Hmm.
was.
I love
Yeah.
that. I got like scenes of drumline playing in my head with him like learning to play just by listening to it.
Say
Mhm.
it again.
That's where that took me.
Oh, yes. Hmm.
Okay, so B, what was your first real big break?
Ooh, real big
Yeah,
break.
you've gone through these smaller venues and struggled through different things, but was there a point where it just started working? Everything started flowing and
I would say when I got the call for the first time to go overseas with an artist, he's passed now, but the late Jesse Dixon.
mm,
I don't know if you remember him. He used to be a part of the Gaithers,
hmm
um, and so I didn't even know who he was, and that was probably where it all began with him.
okay.
Um, it is funny because that was a pivotal moment in my life because I, in the midst of me doing the club gigs and all of that, I was still working in corporate America as well. I had corporate jobs,
Okay.
Frito Lay, and different places. My last job was Delta,
I remember
in the
Delta.
frequent flyer department, and so uh, I would go to work from 9 to 5, and then have to be at a rehearsal at 7, and at rehearsal from 7 to 10, sometimes 11, and repeat the cycle. So it became very very strenuous at one point,
Yeah.
and I often remember, like, God, how much longer am I going to be able to juggle these two?
Right, right.
God, how much longer? It was a prayer, but it was a conversation. I was just like, I don't know how much longer I can do this because I'm so tired. And I never forget, I had the flu, and I was off work for like a whole week.
Ooh.
And I went back to work that Monday. Still wasn't quite 100%, but I went back to work because I knew I had been off already a week. Went back to work that Monday. I missed that Tuesday because I just was still not well. Went back Wednesday, and they told me then, they was like, hey, we're sorry, but we're going to have to let you go.
Oh.
And when it happened, it was such a peace that came over me. I didn't know, hey, I didn't have another job lined up. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I get in my car, and before I could get home, one of my good friends that's from St. Louis, but he was living here in Atlanta as well, Alex Evans, he called me. He said, hey, man, he said, you have a passport? I said, no, but I'm sure I can get one. He said, dude, I need you to get a passport because I need a drummer to go with me to Switzerland.
Oh my goodness. Look at
And I was
God.
like, okay,
Answered prayer.
right. And he was like, so get you a passport. At the time, my dad was working for the airlines. And so I called my dad. This is before Atlanta became what it is now. So you had to go to New Orleans to get the passport the same day.
hmm
So I told him what was going on. So he got me a ticket and everything. So I got up that next morning, flew to New Orleans, was there when they opened the doors, did the application and everything, and I picked up my passport before they closed the same day.
That's what I'm talking about, bro.
Flew back
Oh,
to
That's
cool.
flew,
what I'm talking
yes,
about.
flew back to Atlanta and sent that information to management and all of that. And a week later, I was in Sweden, Switzerland,
Wow, that's
touring with this
insane.
guy.
So
I had no
cool.
idea who he
That
was,
that
but
sounds amazing and everything. I
yeah,
got a quick question for you, Brian. One, I was
yeah, Mark.
listening because I was wrapping up the other show and everything, but you mentioned a couple of things that people don't even remember from back in the day because you're talking about 8 tracks, and yes, I do remember 8 tracks, but again, I also remember the record player, like the
Oh
suitcase
yeah.
record player that some people used to have, and all along those lines, but people had forgotten about that. But my quick question for you in terms of the travel, because you mentioned that your dad was on Delta and worked for Delta and all along those lines. And even here in North Carolina, where I'm at, we used to have a Midway. And there was even a couple of times that I got to go on trips because they used to have this thing that I don't think they have as much anymore after 9/11. So I'm wondering if this is even what happened with your trajectory in terms of music. But there used to be a thing that you could get if your friends or family worked in the airline industry called the friends and family plan. So you could literally get a discount that you could get because you were related to somebody. So I was wondering if that's part of what happened with that father of yours having the job and everything, because you used to be able to get some serious discounts. Because I had a buddy that worked for Midway, and I got to go on at least I think 1 or 2 trips because he got me those serious discounts and everything.
Yeah, well, the immediate family, they flew basically free. You just had to
Right.
pay the
Right,
taxes.
right.
And so, with me being the son, um, I I don't remember if he had to pay anything. If he did, I was still young. So, um, but he took care of it. And all I know, I was on that plane
Right.
to New
That's
Orleans.
powerful, man.
No, that's real
What a
powerful.
story.
Yeah.
So just
So
think about
that would,
that.
I would say that was the thing, because in our industry, you're only as good as the last thing you did.
Right.
And so when that word started getting out that I was overseas for a period of time with this artist, and you know, you're right, Chris. It was TWA. Actually, it was Ozarks first.
It was Ozark the
It
Green. I
was
remember. I
Ozarks,
remember.
the green
I
and white
remember. Right.
wings.
Right.
We used to
Right.
have wings all over the house,
House.
man.
Yeah, I
Just
remember that. I
it
remember
was
that.
Ozarks, and then I think Ozark bought out. I think TWA bought out
Bought out
Yeah, I think
Ozark.
Yeah,
TWA bought out Ozark because, like I said,
yeah,
I do follow some business news. I had told definitely Lauren and Coach G before you came on, and just in general, that I had spent some time with my mom over the weekend and everything. And one of those conversations that we were having was actually one that she related to and everything that I think you'll be able to relate to, because y'all were talking about that mixture of secular and everything. Because my mother has a love of blues music. She'll even admit that she has it now and everything. But there was one of my great aunts came to the house, and she was there at this family gathering and everything. So my mom was basically saying that she could go to that house because she knew that that aunt would allow her to hear the blues music and the secular music, whereas the other ones wouldn't and everything. So, like I said, mom is in her 80s, so this particular
Yeah.
aunt is probably in her 90s or something like that and everything. But I was wondering, did you have something like that where there were certain
no,
family
Mark.
members that would allow you to hear certain secular music that maybe you couldn't hear in other places?
They all my aunts was just as bad as my mom,
Yeah.
if not worse.
Yeah.
It was just no.
Because
And
you
the
knew you couldn't come
closest,
to Kansas City and play
oh
it.
no.
So
And then Chris and Terrence, all of they lived down the street from us,
right.
and Marie wasn't having that either.
She wasn't playing that. And don't let us go to Syston with Uncle Charlie and
Oh my
AG or
God, when you
Pat,
could
all
barely
that.
go outside.
Right. You had to wear. Remember, we had to wear sweatpants in the middle of the
Yeah,
summer.
we couldn't wear no shorts, and oh my God, yeah.
But
So
but could you, because the same relative, because like I said, I think this particular cousin, because there's actually a cousin that I'm thinking about that was like about maybe a few years older than mom, and they were actually speaking about her mom that would be, if she was living in her hundreds and everything, there was the one that you could go hear some of this secular music. But even my own grandparents and everything, particularly on mom's side, there were certain things that you were not supposed to do. So I was wondering if that was what y'all ran into as well, because if there were
absolutely.
games that had dice, they were not big fans of those, and they were definitely not big fans of card games as well. So if you were going to play them, you might want to play them kind of on the secret side where people couldn't see what you're doing and everything. But I was wondering if that's something that y'all ran into as young people, because I do know there were some folks that were more religiously oriented, and they were not going to necessarily want to see, like, say, I think Monopoly's got dice in it, and they definitely didn't want to see like the cards as well.
Mark, you on it, brother. You are
Right.
on it.
Right.
Absolutely. I think my dad's side of the family, they were spiritual. However, they, what I call today, were more balanced.
Mm.
Hey, they did their thing, but they were faithful to God. They were faithful to church, and they listened to secular music. And with some of my uncles, if you want you a good drink, you could get it.
Right.
And I mean, they were just some of the nicest, and still is. I'm talking like they're not here, but a lot of them, they're just some of the nicest and genuine people that you will ever want to meet. And so, like, I have family in Detroit, and that's how I listen to a lot of secular music, because that's
Damon. Yeah.
yeah,
You
that's what
see
Damon, yeah,
Yeah.
Blissett, yeah, he knows. And so, but yeah, Mark, you hit it on the head. There was not too many places, so that's why I had to put that radio clock underneath my pillow
Right. I was doing
and
the same
just,
thing, cuz.
and just listen to it. And I'd be like, "Ooh, this is so good!" It's just
So that sounds like, though, it was the start. That's what I was talking about. And then it moved you into artists like Adam Hawley and Mandisa and Kim Waters and PJ Morton. Talk to us about those transitions.
well, like I said, once I start traveling and start playing with top tier artists, now your name becomes more known, and you're recommended. And along the way, I've always been big. One of the things that I learned, because there was a drummer here that got here maybe a year or so before I did, um, Cheryl Harper. She's from
Mm,
Wichita, Kansas, and back in the day, she was like, man, she did just about almost anything gospel. She was on James Moore, the Pace Sisters,
yeah.
Georgia. I mean, just some of everything. And so I noticed how much favor she had and how much people really enjoyed her. So I started asking questions like, "What do you all like so much about her? You know, what is it that you like? What is it that you don't like?" And so I started asking questions because I kind of felt my way going in that direction, and so I wanted to learn the do's and the don'ts. And so um, that was the thing that kind of helped me as well to prepare when those doors start opening. And so, like I said, next thing you know, I come back, and then I'm in Japan for 3 months with another band.
Mm, that's so
Um,
cool.
and then I with Germany. So I've been blessed to travel in various countries. And so each time it was a resume builder.
Right,
It
right.
was a resume builder. And like I said, God just favored my name. And even to this day, I'm so grateful for the favor that God has placed on my life and just being a part of the ATL, the Atlanta music history. When they talk
Yeah.
about the
So
music
rich.
scene,
Right.
it's just a blessing and an honor to be mentioned when they have those conversations. So with Adam Hawley, he is one of my most recent relationships I've fostered when I start transitioning into the smooth jazz market. Another incredible testimony when we were in the pandemic, everybody was doing everything online because nobody was touring, nobody was doing anything. And so I would watch Adam Hawley do his live shows from his studio, like my setup, every week.
Wow.
And
Wow.
people would send him money and,
Just
he would
pack it
feature
out. Right.
different, oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
And so I was like, one day I'd like to work with this guy or meet this guy or something. I didn't know who he was until Facebook. And so I did more research and I stayed in contact with him. And so one day I was watching and I said, let me reach out to him, just take a chance, Sent him an inbox message. He sent me his phone number.
Wow.
I freaked out. I was
How
like,
I'm sure.
cool.
I'm sure you did, bro.
this guy don't know me. This guy's like top chart Billboard. Everything he does is like, it's incredible. And so I called him and we talked for 3 hours the first time I called him.
Boy, there's power in threes, man.
Power is at
Yes.
three,
Yes.
but not just that. There's powers on leaping out on faith and everything. Because I think sometimes when we think about celebrities and we think about people in general, we are thinking that they are not regular people that put on their pants just like we do and everything, and that they oftentimes will have numbers as well and everything. Because just to share this with you, Brian, not Mario Van People, but Melvin Van People, when he was living and everything, I just took a chance, and it was only one conversation, but I was like, let me go look up Melvin Van People on the phone book in New York, and I actually just looked him up, called him up, and actually got him and everything. Because people would think that Melvin Van Peebles, who is Mario's dad, would not have an actual phone number. But I was like, I'm just going to take the chance
Wow.
and give him a call. And sure enough, he answered, and it wasn't his personal assistant. It was actually the gentleman himself and everything. And I think I was asking him because I'm part of a cultural arts center and a film festival. So I think I was asking him to be on or involved with the festival. Unfortunately, his schedule when he was living did not allow it. But I'm just telling people and that are listening and hearing your story and also sharing that story that sometimes it's worth it to actually go out there and take the chance because you never know what the results will be and everything. Because I think a lot of people are feeling like, hey, there's no way I'm gonna reach out to say a Beyonce or somebody like that because they're gonna have too many walls in front of them, and sometimes they might surprise you. I'm not saying that there's not those that don't have the walls because
Right.
like I do, Brian, that there are some that have the walls, but you might be surprised at how accessible some people are when we're thinking that they're all not accessible.
Well,
Yeah.
to your point though, real quick, Mark,
Mhm.
put up Chris's comment because Brian, I don't know if you saw this. This is from your blood, man, and this is what you did. Your actions sparked. Read
Yep.
that real quick.
Just to read it for y'all, since somebody else wants to jump into it. Christopher Yancey Sr. said, I just want to say that Brian was my motivation as a kid to leave STL, which is St. Louis, and pursue my media career. He was the first of our
Mm.
cousins to venture out like that, and I appreciate you pioneering
Oh,
that for
wow.
us.
Yeah, and if you really
Wow.
think back, cuz that so many
Wow.
people jumped out after you did.
Wow.
So you weren't just a
Y'all ain't
pioneer
gonna
in
have me crying on this
no,
show.
man. Come
Mm-mm.
Cry,
on,
buddy,
bro.
cry.
This is Misfits
Wow.
Managed, man. We real. It was real talk, man. I just that's what I'm saying. I'm
Thank you,
so
Chris.
excited that I have you live because that's why I said I want to honor you. You did so much. And I can't say did. You've done and you're doing, and we know the best is yet to come. That God has saved the best for last. Because man, you talking about getting emotional. I see the favor of God all over you. That His hand is on everything that you say and you do because it's blessed. You've you've you're that olive that has been pressed, and now all that comes out of you is fine oil. The oil of
Hmm.
God is just flowing out of you. You have no idea right now in this space, in this dispensation of time, how much you are blessing Lauren and I on our journey of Misfits Vantage on levels and different angles and things that we want to do. And we have been frustrated because we sense the greatness that's there. Um, oh my God, the heavyweight has joined the room.
Hey, G.
The heavyweight has joined the room. But no, man, real talk. You have inspired us in this show already because these are
Awesome.
the things we've been chewing on for the last couple of weeks. And you come in here and powerfully tell your story authentically and real as a misfit does. Um, Taking the leaps of faith, taking the chances, being driven when no one else thinks you can do it, stepping outside the box when you look crazy sometimes, but you did it anyway. And I lead that into atmosphere because I want you to really spend some time. We're here to learn your history, but I want to really dive into where you're at now. Atmosphere was a powerful single 20-week run on the Smooth Jazz Network's top 100 chart. And then right behind that, you outdo yourself with your first book, The Journey of Faith. So I want you to really dive in that. Tell us how that was inspired and what those two mega events in your life means. And remember, you're on Misfits Managed, so just let it flow, bro.
Well, like I said, Adam Hawley was the producer for Atmosphere. Um, if I could go back real quick,
Sure.
before I met Adam Hawley, there was a young man, a smooth jazz artist by the name of Willie Bradley,
Okay.
and trumpet player. And so I had did a show with Willie Bradley years ago at this place here called St. James Live. We had exchanged numbers, but we never kept in contact with each other. And so years go by, we end up crossing paths again. We so-called exchanged numbers only to realize we had each other's numbers. So we was like, man, we got to do better this time and keep in
Right,
contact.
right, right.
So he was coming to town. He called me. He said, "Hey man, I need you to put a band together for me. I'm coming to town. I got to do a show." I said, "Cool, I got you." We was having rehearsal at my house. So at the time, I'm listening to his music, getting more familiar with who he is, Google search and all of that. And I was like, "Man, this guy's done a lot. Like, but he's not really a household name, but he is known." And so something said, "Well, when he gets here, ask him how he does what he does." So he came about 30, 45 minutes early before everybody. Welcomed me in. We're sitting there talking. I say, "Man, if you don't mind, just how you do what you do." And he was like, "You really want to know?" Now he old school. You know, we call him Uncle Willie because he's an older guy. He old school. He's like, "You really want to know?" I said, "I asked you, didn't I?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Well, first of all, you need to create some music." I said, "Oh, I got that." Pulled up my computer, played
Yeah, I
it.
know.
He was
I know
like,
you got that. Yeah.
"This you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, well, cool." He said, "Now you got to get a cover done." I said, "Oh, I got that too." I said, "Matter of fact, let me stop you. This project has been released. This is my very first project." He was like, "Oh." I said, "So I need to know how do I go beyond my family and friends and get my
Right,
music to the
right,
masses?"
right.
And so he
Distribution.
said, "Yeah." He said, "This, I will give you this guy's name and number. Call him tomorrow." Tell him I sent you. I already know what he's going to say. This is where my faith kind of was shaky. He said, I already know what he's going to say, but let me know what he says when you call him. This was like a Wednesday, Thursday. I didn't call that man till Monday because I was afraid. I didn't want to deal with, because I had already dealt with being denied along the journey, had already been dealt with, dealt with not being enough along the journey. I
Mm.
didn't want to be
Yeah.
told no again that I, had the experience along the journey.
Along the
So,
journey.
Yep.
so the fear was this man ain't, and I knew listening to his music where my music was, it was not equal up to. So end up calling the guy on Monday, sent him the music. He calls me back like Wednesday, and he's like, "Hey man, I've selected one of the songs. Here's your date for radio. This is what I need you to do. X, Y,
Wow.
Z." So that's how I got my first exposure
Wow.
to smooth jazz radio. So then after that, I released another single because I knew that wasn't what it needed to be. I knew it didn't quite have the formula that smooth jazz radio is used to having. And so I took another single that I worked on, and it did pretty good, but I knew it still wasn't right. So then, fast forward back to Adam. I reached out to Adam, and so we did the first single with him, and it did very well. This second single, which is Atmosphere, because
Come
I
on.
already had the relationship. Now, to show you how God works,
Right,
the
right.
radio guy, servicer that Willie introduced me to, happened to be the same radio guy that Adam Holly used.
Wow.
Boom.
So when I presented to him Atmosphere, he was like, "So who's the producer?" I said, "Adam Hall." He said, "Oh, this is a win-win. No problem. When you get it done, it was just like clockwork. Just." And
So
so yeah, so it was just and so that's the thing. Now people ask me all the time, what advice would you give people? I was like, just do it. If God gives you that unction, or you have a thought, or what if I hadn't asked that man, how do you do what you do? I would have never known. All this would have been delayed. But because I
Yep.
took the risk to ask him what he did, and he just, we're best friends to this day. I just did a show with Willie like 2 weeks ago. And to the point that he used to have a band in South Carolina. He's no longer uses them. I'm always putting a band together from him from Georgia. So just the continued favor. And so with all of that led me to the journey of faith, because like all of us, our life
right.
is filled. We're on this journey
Yep.
that we call life, and
Yep.
along this journey, our faith is forever being challenged, being developed.
Yep.
The measure is always being increased.
Right,
You
right.
know, I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and I was telling them it's like you're walking on a path, and the journey of faith. The book is about you picking up nuggets along the way, a spiritual
Oh,
resource as you're going. Because
yeah.
you might be good today, but tomorrow your faith may be wavering. It may be, man,
Yep.
depleted.
Yeah.
So
We call that jewels of the journey.
whew, I love that.
This is
Yeah.
like me last week.
Yeah. Yeah. This is powerful, man. You have no idea what you're doing right now.
Hey,
You
as
just
long
being
as
you,
somebody's
but
blessed by it. Yeah,
you have no idea what you're doing right now.
yeah.
But keep
Well, I'm
going.
grateful.
You in the vein. Keep going, bro.
So no, that's basically how that happened. But it's and the book, man, honestly, was not something I set out to do. I've been telling people this, and they just be like, "Ain't no way," and I'm like, "I promise you, it's not." I sat at this desk that I'm sitting at right now. I came in one night to work on some music tracks for an upcoming show with an artist I was performing with. I had no motivation to do it. I was distracted. I was sitting up here looking at my computer. I hit a button every now and then. I'd be like, "Oh, I don't like this track," and it just no creativity whatsoever and no desire. And so I'm just sitting here, and on one of my one of the ideas that I had about a book is a story. It's, I guess you would call it a nonfiction. And so I started working on that, and that was flowing. Ideas were flowing. I think I got them to about 14, 15 chapters in. And when I sat
Yep.
back and looked at it, I was like, okay, this is going to take a little more time, a little more money, a lot more effort. So let me just pull
Mm.
back from this. But at least I have a skeleton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
framework.
And then some said, well, maybe you could do something that's a little more simpler and not as
Yeah.
and so I was like, okay. And then the ideal of a devotional came to me, and I was like, I never thought about doing a devotion, you know. And once again, you start second guessing yourself. Do I even know enough to talk about a devotional?
Yeah.
Or I ain't been to seminary, and I don't understand all the Greek and Hebrew terminologies that people are reading, and so I'm second guessing
That's
myself.
what
And
you got
next,
AG for.
that's true because you got to have a dictionary when you're talking to him.
Right,
He's gonna
right.
be like, wait a minute, what you say?
What you just say? You gotta Google it.
And so next thing you know, man, 3 titles came to me in the midst of me
Wow.
warring in my mind.
Yeah.
And so the journey of faith was the one that stood out the most. And I had that framework done within a matter of 2 days,
Yep.
And so once I pulled back from it, then I went back to it every day and just tried to, piece it together, figure out what the format that I wanted. And next thing you know, here you have
There it
it.
is.
But when I tell you it was a process, because I've never released a book. I'm AG is one that I know, and there are a couple other people I know. But I'm glad that I
Look
experienced
at that
this.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on, Mark.
There it is. There it is.
I'm glad I experienced it the way I did because I had to go through different editors and proofreaders, and it reminded me so much of the process that we go through when we're creating music. You have to hire musicians, you have to hire someone to mix the song, hire someone to
Yeah.
master it. And so I wasn't so overwhelmed or intimidated because I was like, okay, you know what, this is just like when you're doing your single.
Right, right.
you
So you
know
know the space, you're familiar with
I
it.
knew the space. Yeah. So
I got a little nugget in there because we talk so much about things building on each other.
Come on, girl. I
mm,
knew you picked that nugget up. I
I
knew you picked
I
that
know,
nugget up. I know my
but
girl.
it's so cool because everything you've been talking about has just been the building block.
Hmm.
And
mm,
from all of your music experience, it took you in a new avenue, and it was a new process for dang sure because I've done it too and it is a process. But there was some familiarity to it
Hmm.
because you do it with music. And that gave you just enough to keep going and get her done.
that's true.
Well, to piggyback on what she's saying, on this show, we're big on talking about release.
Yeah.
And what
mm,
I've heard in this conversation is that you were faithful to the process, you stayed the course. Even in the low moments, you took time to stock the shelves, to
Yeah.
perfect your craft or sharpen
mm,
the saw, some would say. So
mhm.
when the time of elevation came, you were able to walk right in it.
Yep.
And I feel like that's what you've done. I mean, what a gift that you have given us, my brother,
That's a total
tonight.
gift and everything. I just have a quick
Yeah.
question for Brian, and it's something actually, ironically, based on a conversation I had yesterday with a longtime friend and acquaintance, and I'll actually say the name of the family, but he is the one of the elder members of the Key family, which is a prominent gospel family, and all along those lines and everything. But he's also done a lot of stuff in the secular realm and all in that space. I was just wondering how you were able to make that transition, Brian, because I do know that sometimes as you're going from one to the other, it can be difficult, and sometimes it's not always as accepting. And sometimes coming back to the misfit journey, sometimes people can give you some pushback because I know a little bit about the smooth jazz journey as well as the gospel journey. So I just wondering your thoughts as to how you dealt with that, and even within your own family and just on the journey.
Great question, Mark. And that was a challenging transition because, as I stated before, all I knew was church
Mm-hmm.
slash religion.
Right.
And so, as God was moving me into other areas, I had to slowly detox myself of a lot of the religious thought processes that I had.
Mm.
You know,
Yep.
I never forget. I almost blew a situation where we had just finished doing a rehearsal. Now, mind you, these guys that I'm with, the drummer at the time was Janet Jackson's drummer. The
Wow.
guitar player was like on everything you saw on TV. Like these are heavy hitters that I have
Mhm.
relationships with. And because I was still in this religious mindset, this church mindset, I
Yep.
never forget. We finished rehearsal, and I was like, you know, what everybody was like saying what they were doing and everything. Well, I had to go. I was on my way to church. And so instead of me just keeping my mouth closed and just going on to church, I'm telling them, y'all need to come and go to church with me. Y'all need the Lord. Y'all need to come go to Bible study with me. And one of the guys looked at me and said, how you know I don't know God?
Mm.
Woo.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
I knew at that moment, I got to get rid of that
Right.
because,
Yeah.
The legalism.
yeah, the legal, because that
Because you can
particular
take God
individual,
wherever you go. Right.
Yep.
yes, and that particular individual, his father was a pastor.
Mm.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Wow.
Ooh.
But he's on some of the major, the most prestige stages you could ever be on. And
What
so,
what like being drummer on Tyler Perry's first play
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
and a couple of his movies that AG just reminded us
Kind of
fun
like
fact
that.
that you didn't even throw out there yet. I know them too. I just haven't said it yet. But
well, I mean, you know, we
um
only have an hour, and so I
well,
know we
but
want to segue into the book at some point.
right. I appreciate that. So
Yeah. So, but yeah, but I'll just to
impressive
answer
resume,
Mark's
cousin.
question. Yeah, man, it was a challenge for me to make that trip, but I knew I had to quickly make it, or I was going to be self sabotaging myself. You know, being religious and being heavily minded.
And sometimes it can also help you in other journeys as well. Because I'm gonna mention somebody that you may know as well, Brian. But she lost a battle not that long ago to breast cancer. But she was definitely a well-known musician. I knew her because she had some North Carolina ties and everything, and she actually was religious. Some people would say it was a fringe religion, but I'm thinking that you probably knew Catrice Barnes, who was the music director for Saturday Night Live, and was actually a
Yes.
personal friend of mine as well. So I actually knew her for a long time and everything. So that was a sad time when she lost that battle of breast cancer, but she had been fighting it for a while. But I'm sure that part of her journey was also relying on her faith walk in order to get to the promised land. So hopefully
Mm-hmm.
she at and everything along those lines. But definitely she was an amazing lady. I actually knew her when she was first starting off as a third generation, which was the group that her dad put her out because they had like that Michael Jackson moment. Her brother is still out there performing, and you probably know the brother that's out there performing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry
Very
about your. I
familiar.
know how close you were to Mandisa too. I'm sorry about the loss
Oh yeah.
uh
Yeah. That
there.
was
So
it's heart shattering.
yeah,
Heart shattering.
yeah, yeah.
Brian, I gotta say, like, with everything that you've talked about in all these conversations, it is insane how much you have taken your faith into everything that you have done
Yeah, yeah.
and infused your faith and God into everything,
Yeah. Letting
whether
his
you
gifts
knew
make
it or not.
yeah, allowing his gifts to make room for him. And brother, what I
Yeah.
was finished what I was saying earlier was the release that through this process, Lauren and I are big on this. All I would guess she heard too is all we've heard was release and release
Yep.
and release. And as you released, you gained capacity to do more. And then you released
Mm.
more. You gave up good for better, better for great.
Yep.
And it's just so inspiring to watch because you have just created new space, new creativity. There's a new anointing, there's a new gifting and talent that's now resident on you. And that's why stuff is just clicking for you now. It's just powerful to watch, man. You've inspired, obviously, our family, our generation of cousins. I mean, I hope you know that. I hope you
Well,
know what you mean to us and how much you've
yeah.
inspired us.
That
Um,
chat just said it all.
which one?
All of it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just asking whether he knew some people that I know, and I'm thinking he does. But Archie of Who's Bad is a good friend of mine that actually appears on one of our shows regularly because Coco McMillan does a show every Thursday, and she was the former musical director for, for former background vocalist for Gerald Levert, and then Chip Sharon, who did that bass line on Sugar Hill, is a longtime friend as well. So I'm thinking that Brian, you probably know both of those
Yeah,
individuals.
familiar with them. I've never met them, but I am familiar with them.
But speaking of the things that folks need to do, and I hope that Coach G does not mind this and all along those lines. But we talked about this particular song, and I am a fan of smooth jazz and all along those lines. So I don't think that it is fair to end a show with
Play a
the
song.
mischiefs and everything without at least having people get a little clip of what you're all about and all along those lines. So if y'all keep the conversation going, I'm gonna see if we can get a little bit of atmosphere going on so that people
Yes,
can
sir.
get a taste of what you are all about
Let's hear
as
that
well.
You the
single.
man. You the man, Mark. You the man.
I'm trying to make it happen. So y'all keep on talking, and we'll see if we can't get it up and running and all along those lines. So if you guys will keep on conversating, we'll see if we can't get this going so that people can hear atmosphere and all in that space.
Well, I know we're closing out on time, and we've talked about some incredible, amazing, extraordinary, God-inspired accomplishments. But what does the future hold for you? You know,
Well,
what
now
does
that
that look like?
I have this writing bug right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You
I have
see
already
what he's doing to me,
started.
Lauren?
I'm about to do it to you too.
Okay, you started. Keep going.
I've already started on my next devotional, and this one is for men.
Come on, boy.
This one is for men. I talked to a couple of friends of mine, and they asked the same question. They was like, man, they was like, we're proud of you. What's next? And I was telling them, at first my answer was like, I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of letting this ride out and see. And then a couple of them was like, man, you need to write something for men if you do anything else. And so that's what I'm working on now. And since I've started that, I'm considering using the same concept for women as well.
Yeah.
So I have multiple book ideas. And so much so that I just got my paperwork from the Secretary of State. I just went on and started Andrews Inc. Publishing.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Just
I know
got
where
that back.
I know where I'm bringing my book.
I know where I'm bringing my next one.
So she's already got a book. The next book will be coming out on that, and definitely Coach G's book will be coming out on that as well. But if y'all don't mind, let's check out a little bit of
Do it, man.
Mark is the man.
Yeah, that was good. That was so timely. Good stuff, man.
Uh-oh.
Did we lose it, Mark?
Yeah, I think it froze there for a second, but I'll see if I can get it back on.
Okay. Can you put that maybe as our outro tonight?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. So
before we go, in case you don't have the book, just letting the audience know you can find it on Amazon.
Thank you. That's
print,
where I was headed.
Audio, Kindle, Amazon. It's on Apple Books. So it's available, and all my music is available on every digital platform: Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you download your music is everywhere.
Misfits
and that's Brian with the E, Brian.
Right. Misfits Nation, Misfits Managed Nation. If you'd see the taglines underneath, that's all his social media, all the places that you can find this extraordinary artist. What a gift of God to mankind. So,
thank y'all for having me. Thank you,
Lauren. What are your closing thoughts on Brian?
I'm like fangirling over here.
I love it.
He's your Taylor Swift now.
But for real, like I am so in awe of all just the faithful steps you've taken and I don't know what this is going to look like, but let's do it.
I told you he was going to minister to you.
Like you are speaking my language, and I am just like soaking it all in, like getting the inspiration, because like I am on your page of what are they going to do? Tell you no? Like reach out to them and just do it.
Right.
It's
Right.
terrifying, but you never know. You are a testimony to this. You never know what one simple thing is going to lead to.
Yes.
I love it. So, Brian, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
You're welcome, Lauren. Thanks. Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me.
Man, I don't.
Fingal!
Yeah, dude, I don't even know where to start because um, this is so divine. You have no idea
Yeah,
the space that we have been in the last 2 to 3 weeks because we sense greatness is right at our fingertips, and we're brand new at this. But when we talk to people about this show, and we're learning to be co-hosts, we're learning to do podcasts, we're learning to be live streamed on TV, we're learning all these new things that coming at us so quickly. But it's blessing people, which blesses us. And like one of the comments we got was one of my friends was just saying how she loves watching us heal together. I break down, she breaks down, and we heal together in the middle of the show. And people are just looking for something that's authentic and real. And
Yes.
without even knowing, because I know you don't know the whole history of Misfits Managed, but you literally stepped into the epicenter of our world, the
yep.
core. You jumped right in it without knowing and spoke our language, spoke into our hearts, spoke into our audience hearts tonight. And man, I'm so indebted. I'm so encouraged. I am so uplifted. That number one, you're my boy, my cousin, um, my family, my brother. Um, and what an example you have been in my life. Things that I've literally been scared of the last 30 days. Um, and I get to listen to one of my senior cousins share his story, which I already know, but man, now I really know it. And it hit me tonight in a different way. And Coach G's got to get up. Coach G's got to
Oh
get up.
yeah.
There's
Oh
work
yeah.
that needs to be done, and Coach
Yep.
G's got to get up and
Yep.
get to work. So AG has been on me too, and I've been living in fear.
Let's go,
Lauren
G.
Lauren has been living in fear, and we
Mm-hmm.
talked about that fear discussion. I think it was Monday.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so Lauren, I mean, the Lord gifted us tonight with Brian Andrews.
It's a good thing you called me last week and said, let's make this happen.
Yeah. I
so
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
we'll leave you with the final thought, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
talk on anything, your book, your music, um, whatever's on your heart to close us out.
Um.
Now you're reading your
He's
sister's
laughing at me.
comments.
Yeah, I see it. Fangirling. Yep. I love it too, Tim. Man, I think I will just reiterate what you said. If you feel whatever it is that you feel called or pushed to do it. Because you just never know what's connected to that
Right.
and what door that particular thing will open.
Or lead you to.
Um, yeah, it's like I was sharing with my story. Every time I made a decision to do something else, it led to something else, and then that led to something else, and it led to me meeting someone else or me stepping out on faith to reach out to somebody that I knew they didn't know me, but if I hadn't done it, or if I hadn't asked a question, or if I didn't, you know, I wouldn't even be here having this conversation with you.
Mm.
But I'm a living witness if you just step out there and just do it. See, a lot of times we want to use faith for our bills
Right. Right.
and healing, which all those things are important. But there are some simple things that we can use faith for,
Yep.
and it works. We just have to
Yep.
utilize it, put it to
Yep.
work.
God wants to co-create with us. He
Yes.
doesn't want us to be. Go ahead, Mark.
You know what I'm saying? Speaking of co-creating, because you definitely got some great music. I was checking that out. I'll hopefully go out with it, the full version on the end and all along those lines. But that being said, and they don't even know that I'm going to tell you this because sometimes I think that say things that are off the top of my head and all along those lines. But I've been
Oh,
very much
gee.
impressed with
Never.
your music
Is,
and all along those
is
lines.
the rating about to change?
Along that kind of space
Let's
and
go, Mark.
everything in that way. But as Coach G knows, because sometimes I am
Oh,
recording from that location, as Lauren knows as well, one of the major African American cultural arts centers is in Durham, North Carolina, and they book a number of acts, including some jazz acts and all along those lines. So I am not the one that does the booking, but I can definitely put in a good word and all along those lines. So we're going to see if we can get you to come on up to Durham to the Hayti Heritage Center, which is the center that I work at, and all along those lines. So we're going to see if we can make that happen sometime in the near future and all along those lines. Because I was in grooving to the sounds, and I think that others that are there will be grooving to the sounds as well. And even the person and the people that created Art of Cool, they have a jazz club called Missy Lanes, which ironically was named after her, I think, aunt or something along those lines. So there are a couple of venues, including the Fruit and other places, that I'm thinking I might need to get in touch with them and see if we can get you some performances, maybe even with John Brown, who is the Duke music director and definitely involved with Central and a number of other things. So we have a
Let's
rich
go.
music community here in Durham, North Carolina. So we need to hear that
Absolutely.
Brian sound and all along those lines. I know some of them have been down to Atlanta, but we got to get you to come up this way for some
Hey,
gigs
yeah,
and everything.
I would love to do it. As a matter of fact, I can send you my EPK.
yeah.
And that way you can have something to forward to them. They can just see what the show is like with the band.
Mark, put up Shannon's comment. I want Brian to see that. This is what you
Yeah.
did tonight, man. This is what you did. I told her at the last minute to cheer you in because I thought this would be a good word for her tonight. This is what you did. Thanks for giving me a heads
Wow.
up about this, Coach G. I needed to hear this tonight. And you don't know her story, but I'll forward it
Awesome.
to you once it's released.
Awesome.
So it was a powerful word that she needed to hear in season.
Awesome.
You did
Hang
that,
in
bro.
there, Shannon. Hang in there, Shannon.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, hang in there.
Look at AG.
Yeah, but that's my final words. Just do it.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, in spite of, it may seem impossible, but if God is leading you to do it, just do it. We are a people of faith. And I tell people all the time, God has not failed me yet.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I need you to support me tomorrow. I'm gonna be with our big brother AG, Courage to Overcome Trauma, on his show tomorrow night. So, sharing the story, the journey of a warrior, which I'm much better at that now because I'm kind of removed from some of the pain and I can actually speak into that and teach now. But yeah, if you're not busy, I would love to have your support on that with me tomorrow.
What time tomorrow? Is that his regular time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah, I have an
see.
event that I'll be at,
7:30
but
p.m. Central.
okay. I'll still find a way to, if nothing else, just to log on and
Yeah.
put
Appreciate
my
you.
earbuds on. Yeah, absolutely, man. You know how we do.
Yeah.
Gotta
Yeah.
support each other. Gotta support each other.
Yeah. Damian Blissett saying proud of you, cuz. So
Thank you, Damien. And everybody that's logged in. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all. Love everybody.
Lauren, you ready to close out? Misfits Nation, Misfits Managed Nation has been blessed thoroughly tonight.
Absolutely.
Mm, mm, mm.
I'm not covering up anything with Brian said because he closed that perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to say.
All right.
So, Mark, yeah, if you could take us out to Atmosphere and let our audience just enjoy Atmosphere.